show on the road here? One, two. Okay. Oh, there's Leggett. I see Leggett there. Yeah. Yeah. We have Simpson. We have Leggett, and we have Supervisor Thomas is online. Yeah. And Supervisor, we're all set. You want me to rock and roll? Good morning. Can everyone hear me? Maybe give me a little thumbs up. I would deeply appreciate it. Thank you. I see some thumbs going up in the air. Thank you very much. In the room, we have Mike Colvin, Don Lehman, Supervisor Merlino, Robert, our attorney, and Tammy in the room, as well as Christy. So welcome, and Ed Bartholomew, maybe you can give us a little bit of direction. Are we starting off with the sole member meeting, which would be chaired by our chairman, Thomas? Is that correct, Ed?
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Yes, the first meeting is the sole membership by Chairman Frank Thomas, who will undertake the initial component of appointment to the Board of Directors.
Okay. Chairman Thomas, it's your show.
Hey, thank you, Mr. McDevitt. Can you hear me?
I can. Thank you very much.
Okay. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Local Development Corporation. Being chairman of the board, I am the sole member for this meeting of the Local Development Corporation. I will be appointing the directors. The term is for 2 years. And the directors that I have are Craig Leggett, Peter McDevitt, Eugene Merlino, Ann Simpson, and to replace myself on the board of directors, I am going to appoint Brad McDowell. So that's the extent of my contribution to the meeting today, and I'll declare the sole meeting adjourned, and it's back to the board.
Thank you very much, Chairman Thomas. Appreciate your efforts. I think we go to step number 2, Ed, and that would be a meeting of the Audit and Finance Committee, which will include, I assume, our newly appointed member, and also as well as Craig Leggett and Matt Simpson. Are we on the same roadmap here, Ed?
That would be a correct way to go to audit and finance, and then the next. Yes, let's do that next, and then go to the election of officers. But let's do audit and finance at this particular time.
Great. So if Matt Simpson or Craig Leggett could maybe take it from this point forward, that would be helpful. You guys have a roadmap here in terms of where we're going?
Well, I think that if I could just interject, I think that the main item within the audit and finance, so that a recommendation can be made to the full board, is a discussion of the audit, which was just completed and sent to the members over the weekend relative to the audit itself. The audit was completed and submitted out. The audit indicates that at this juncture it is a clean, unqualified audit in terms of that there were no audit findings involved with the audit. And it did not issue any management letter relative to our audit, I can kind of point out some key parts of this. If you have a copy of the audit in front of you, is that on page 3 of the audit, the total amount of net assets for 2019 was $1,736,965. In 2018, it was $1,729,528. The breakdown, if you follow on to page 4, has a breakdown of the revenues, which reflected 2019 and 2018 are very similar, just a little over $100 difference between 2019 and 18, with $85,466 on page 4 at the top, and then in 18 the revenue was $85,317. On the bottom, we break out the expenses, and again the net assets come out the same. The biggest change on page 5. Now, you may recall that last year we amended our investment policy, and at the same time we went out to bid from area banks for a certificate of deposit for a period of time. The bids came back, and we awarded the bid, the highest bid, if you will, to TD Bank at 2.3% for a certificate of deposit for 1 year. So, and that netted, from an investment point, approximately $11,000 for the LDC and during 2019. And that continued over because we were in the middle of the year when we undertook that certificate. So we made our deposit. The comparison on page 5 will show that there is a reduction of cash because putting it into a certificate of deposit eliminates that from cash. But as we've indicated, our total in the certificate of deposit is now $511,000. So if you add that together with the $629,000, you can see that we are stable. What we will be doing now, I'm going to deviate just for a second here. Going forward, we are going back out to bid for continuation with the area bank to look at money market as well as certificates of deposit, and report back within our next meeting as to how to proceed with board approval relative to that situation. Those are kind of the highlights. If you will look at the very end on page 17 is a summary sheet of the auditor's results, which breaks down the various components from the financial statement to the various other components within the audit, and it reflected that there was no material weakness, no significant identified areas, non-compliance material, there was none. Material weakness identified was none in any federal awards or any deficiency reported there, and no audit findings were reported, and we do have deemed a low-risk audit under the definition of in the world of accounting. And at the bottom on part 2 is no reportable findings, and under 3 as well as the federal award findings, no reportable findings there too. And at the end of page 18 is another statement from the accounting firm that there was no audit findings with regard to the prior year in 2018 as well. So that is a overview of the audit for the year 2019. We are in the middle of our audit 5-year contract with EFPR Group, and this next year will be we're in year 3 right now. We have 2 years remaining on the contract with this audit firm.
Thank you, Ed. Moving.
Need a motion to approve that?
Yes, please.
I'll move that.
Supervisor Simpson, can we have a second on that, please? Supervisor Leggett. Thank you, Supervisor Leggett. I had a little difficulty seeing you there. So we have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Now, going forward, Ed, the next step, would you,
Yes, sure.
would be the annual Go ahead, Ed. Yeah.
Yes, you're continuing with the annual meeting now, and there is the opportunity for the board members to consider and elect officers, which are for a term of 1 year, and the positions are 5: chair, vice chair, secretary, treasurer, and assistant treasurer would be the first order of business under the annual meeting here.
Okay. Do we have anyone who would propose to nominate anyone for these positions? Any supervisor that would do that? Maybe Supervisor Merlino, do you have a thought in terms of the election of officers?
Well, the only thing I would say right now, all situations, we should leave it the same as we have now.
Okay.
It'll make it easier for everybody.
Okay. Thank you very much, Supervisor Merlino. Can we get we have a motion by Supervisor Merlino. Do we have a second by Supervisor Simpson? We have a second. Any discussion on the part of the board? Yes, in addition.
Just make one
Go ahead, please.
suggestion for amendment to consider is that Frank Thomas, who is no longer on the LDC, was the secretary for the LDC, and so if we interpret Mr. Merlino's resolution, it then would follow that Brad McGowan would be that secretary in the place of Frank Thomas.
Great. Thank you very much, and we welcome Supervisor McGowan to his newly anointed position. Welcome. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No opposed. Ed, what else?
The second item, again, relative to the organizational aspects of this, is the designation by the board of committee appointments, which again run for 1 year, and there are 2 committees. One committee is audit and finance, and the other committee is governance. And previously, we had again, our breakdown with the individual group handling this between our members here. And so it would be, at this point, discussion in thought as to who would continue on in those positions. Leggett was also on that, committee. And perhaps that's, an opportunity for Brad to join the governance committee, or you have the audit and finance, committee breakdown, as well. So what I think the path has been to try to have each, member, take their, committee that they would like most to work on, and then because we have, 5 members, there is a need to have, a duplication, with a couple of, seats on the council. Not to complicate this further, but that's just, how people would like to see that, for audit and finance. The suggestion might be is to have, Frank, as chair, Dean Merlino and Matt Simpson on audit and finance, and, Brad, Craig and Matt, for, governance. Or any combination thereof that the board wishes to do. Those are just, suggestions that I
Thank you, Ed. I appreciate that. I'm happy with those endorsements and nomination. Can we get a motion to go ahead with that? Can I get a motion from Supervisor Leggett? I see with his hand.
I think Supervisor Leggett wants to speak. I think he's got unmuted screen.
Can you mute, please, Supervisor Leggett, and then unmute? I'm sorry.
There we go. Thanks. So, Ed, did you say Frank on audit?
No, Frank.
I said, Craig, Dean, and Matthew.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. So moved.
Okay, we have a motion, and do I see a second out there? I see a second on the part of Matt Simpson. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. It is carried. Ed, going forward?
Yeah, going, forward, so those, positions now are locked in for a year. Part of our next, is a review, of our various bylaws, policies, and, procedures, which you've received a copy of. There were no changes in the, policies adopted, this year. Last year, we made 2 changes. In 2018 was, involved, some investment issues. We did make a change in 2019, on the investment. We added to that because of some changes by, the various recommendations from the auditors, as well as with the, whistleblower, conform with the new state, legislation. So there are no proposed, changes going forward, in the year, 2020. And, the second item that we would review, is the investment, policy, which I briefly talked about again, was, amended in 2019. We would, undertake, under this investment policy, consideration by the board, when we receive bids, within the next, meeting, from banks, area banks, as to what their, percentage rate would be. I would like just to, mention that the, rate, has dropped considerably, within the last 10 days in terms of a certificate of, deposit that was, about 1 1/4, down to, less than, 50% rate, because of the, conditions, currently out there. So, we hope in a month when we go out and come back, there might be a little bit of a pickup, with this. The last year, as I mentioned, we received a rate of 2.3% from TD Bank, and the total investment, of interest that we received was $11,659, and 72 cents. The procurement policy itself has not undertaken any changes there. The procurement items listed, we're required to file our audit contract, which is $6,000, and also the other contract that EDC has with LDC is also listed with our reporting. Also, as part of our annual reporting, we will list as our general counsel Merritt Hussain, who Warren County attorney, as well as Bob Terwilliger, to assist us through the direction of Mary. And we thank Mary and Bob for their effort during this past year. We also have our banking institutions right now are continuing, which is Glens Falls National and TD Bank, until the TD Bank is associated with a certificate of deposit, which will be up for review along with the other bits coming up. Glens Falls National is our checking account, and also designated Harris Peak as special counsel. However, any work that they undertake is subject to a contract to be approved by the LDC. But we designate them, but we have no authorization to retain them on anything until it's approved by the LDC in that regard as well. Other requirements of our annual report, I think you've heard this in the past from Jen. LDC does not own any real property, does not own any personal property per se, and that is also required to be listed. In terms of the policies, there's nothing, as I said before, nothing has changed in that, and would ask that we reaffirm those policies as is, and also adopt those other items that I mentioned. Also, I will be sending out certain annual forms that are required to be completed by our LDC members and returned in a reasonable period of time. I have to indicate that the forms are in the process of being supplied with by our board members, and that basically is to acknowledgement that there's no inherent conflict of interest from you serving on the board. Also, a certificate that you understand your role and fiduciary responsibilities as a member of the LDC, and that you have or will be filing the financial report, your personal financial statement with the county at this time.
Thank you very much, Ed. It would seem as if we could take, according to your master sheet, we could take items 4, 5, 6, and 7, which would basically be a review and approval of the annual report and related bylaws, approval of the investment report, and a review and approval of procurement report, and a review and approval of our annual 2019 audit report. You feel comfortable with that, Ed?
Yes,
Great.
Christy Miller did a very good job. Paper, but I'm trying to make some sense of order with this process here.
Great. Thank you, Ed. Can I get a motion to that effect, please? I think I see Supervisor Simpson's hand up. Can I get a second on that, please? Supervisor Leggett. Thank you, Supervisor Leggett. I appreciate that. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
It is approved. Basically, Ed, it would seem as if at this point we would go into our regular meeting for the month of March.
That is correct.
Great. So we are now into our regular meeting of the Board of Directors, March 24th, 2020. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of our regular meeting of our Board of Directors of February 4th and February 24th, 2020? Can I get a motion? Supervisor Merlino, seconded by Supervisor Leggett. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. It's approved. Our approval and review of our February financial statements, as well as our CEO report, and maybe lumping is there anything you want to add to that, Ed?
I think that just generally, the financial report reflects that we're at the beginning of our year. There's nothing extraordinary or expensive. I can indicate that there will be, at our next meeting, confirmation that the LDC will be submitting and transferring the $10,000 to the Warren County Planning as part of the affordable housing study. EDC has approved the transfer, and those monies will be sent from EDC to the appropriate budget line items at Warren County to make a total of $20,000 for the affordable housing study. You may recall the initial phase of this is being done in-house as best we can at this particular point, but I think that a lot of the data the county has already, so that our hope is that later in the year we can proceed with the consultant list from the state and have a report completed by the end of this year, so we can get on to the next stage of that. But there is nothing other than that. As part of my CEO brief report this morning is that, one, last year we undertook an effort, and continuing effort this year with the county attorney's office, is to work with some of our loan recipients that perhaps needed a little bit of additional assistance or encouragement, if you will. And as a result, we looked in good shape. Last year, there were a total of 4 loans that were paid off for a total of 5. For a total loan that over the years that the LDC lent out to 4 companies, which was the Dome, which was the Great Camp, the former owners of Friends Lake Inn, Seamless Gutters in Queensbury, and Celtic Treasures in Glens Falls. There was a total loans out of $524,000, and all of that has been paid back throughout the years of their term of loans. It pointed out the flexibility with one, obviously, and that was the Dome. There's a very difficult situation with the collapsing of the Dome as a result of extensive snow and as a result of some errors in the design of the Dome at the time. So again, that flexibility allows the Dome to take a break off of their issues, and as a result, Doug and his wife persevered and completed their final payment in 2019 of the $300,000 that was lent to them by the LDC. The Friends Lake Great Camp was $200,000, which is paid off with the transfer of the property to the new owner. Seamless gutter and calcic made up for the balance of about $24,000 there. So those are successful times. And just very briefly, I'd like to just comment on, of our 8 existing loans, we have received inquiries from at least 4 relative to their financial status as a result of the closure of their business on a temporary basis. In discussions with other local development corporations, in discussions with state authorities and so forth, I would propose, in working with the LDC and Chair Peter, that we develop a proposal and criteria for consideration of providing relief for the individual loan recipients based on some standards and criteria that would be reviewed by the board and then approved. We really need to develop some standards. We're not just able to go out and waive a loan automatically for all of these. There may be different circumstances that require us to have more of a flexibility with one, also be helpful to another, but not quite to that extent of flexibility. And so we hope to be able to develop that over the next couple of weeks, and would like to, if we can get this completed in time, have a special meeting. I know it's very difficult through our technology right now to assemble everybody with your schedules, but I think that there is a great need for us to work as fast as we can with our loan recipients to be helpful, with them. We also are working with the SBA. There is a program out there, as well as the package in Washington right now is currently stalled. That does have a grant component that could be assistance to businesses affected by the closure. So those are moving parts. The thing that we can do from our perspective locally is to develop this criteria as soon as we can, to get the information to the board to give us your thoughts, recommendations, and then move forward in allowing the recipients what the process is going forward with that. So that is kind of a summary of my CEO report, as well as with our current loan recipients at this point now. But there is a dramatic effect that is occurring. Supervisors, you're on the line every day in your community. You understand that. And the bottom line is that they're really having some difficult times right now. In addition to calls, we're averaging about 10 to 12 calls a day minimally of businesses from all throughout the county, small businesses as well as large businesses that are asking what is potentially available to do that. And we all recognize that a loan is a loan, and a loan has to be paid back. So right now, everyone is kind of looking for the grant program, and we'll have to see how that. But in the meantime, for our loan recipients we have, I think spending out, making some adjustments is something that we, from my perspective, need to discuss collectively in board.
I agree, Ed. Matt, I agree. I'm talking to businesses every day, and there's so much uncertainty right now, and we really have to work on this expeditiously as we can.
Thank you. Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Merlino, please.
Yeah, just 2 quick comments. I agree with Matt. I think, Ed, you're on the right track. We should consider maybe 3-month reprieve to anybody paying loans, because most of the people that have the loans and right now are closed, so it makes it tough for them to pay it. And my second comment, I think this is working out really great, but I will make a suggestion to the supervisors that are calling in. Get yourself in a better lighted position. If you look at the chairman, we can see him clearly. We look at Doug Beatty, he's in the dark. No comment of that way, but I mean, there's more light in your window than there is in you. So if you get yourself some light in, around you, it'll lighten you up on this screen, and we'd be able to recognize you a little bit better. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Merlino. If we can just get back to just one issue, if we can get a motion to approve the February financial statements, which is item 2 on Ed's sheet here, please. We have Supervisor Merlino, seconded by Supervisor Simpson. Any comments or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
It goes without saying, we live in very, very unusual times, and we have to have a degree of sensitivity and compassion to the folks that have incurred some debt through our local development corporation, and attempt to be as reasonable and compassionate as possible. That being said, does anyone have any further comments or discussion which they would like to bring up at this point? I see Supervisor Leggett. Supervisor Leggett.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the loans that were repaid, did the LDC also work with Seamless Gutter when they had a fire or something? Or
Yes, yes, President, I did mention that, but yes, they did pay that off in 2019 as well. They had a fire, there was a mix-up on their insurance, they were uninsured, and we acted very quickly to the board to expedite that so he could go out and buy his inventory and restock, and he's progressing very well.
Good. Yeah, and I think it's working with the chairman on some how to have some loan reprieve here was a good idea.
Great. Supervisor Bramer, did you have a comment?
I have to navigate to the button to unmute myself in case you hear my coworkers here. I'm really glad to hear us having this discussion. Is there anything that we can do proactively now? Like there are measures where people are already saying, we're going to forego this month's payment for certain things like rent or utilities. Is that something that we can do through the LDC process now to tell people we're going to give you a month?
Ed, go ahead.
Claudia, we need to undertake a criteria of how we approach this before we can just issue a carte blanche in terms of mortgage, rent, taxes, insurance, like that. And we're also talking with the state on certain items as well, certain mortgages that they may be extended out, and also with the banks we're talking with too. A few of our loans here also have loans with area banks that we're communicating with, and so what we're doing is we're talking to them. We've provided them some information on the SBA loan at this point and indicated that we are working through the development of criteria and standards so that the board can judge how we address their particular needs so as I said earlier, it's our hope that we would be able to have a special meeting within the next couple of weeks and adopt it and notify our loan recipients of that, and also determine on part 2 is to then look at putting together similar criteria for undertaking some short-term loans for other businesses in the area. Again, what we want to try to do to see if we can supplement that with SBA, or potentially in talking yesterday to 2 or 3 small businesses, they appreciate that, but they're kind of waiting to see what happens in Washington for a grant. Their preference obviously would be to take a grant rather than a loan initially. But you're getting cancellations. There's a carpenter that does specialized crafts up in Craig neck of the woods that has lost a couple of businesses opportunities worth about $30,000. And that's his concern is this going to continue? And as long as he stays active and in business, he's active and he's alive with his business. But if he starts losing these jobs, he's not going to prosper and make it. So that's what we're up against, and we're going to try to address that as well. So it's kind of a two-step process for us to get there, to help our existing loan recipients as well as to assist those small businesses that are impacted along the line you're suggesting, Claudia.
Thank you, Ed. Any further discussion? Seeing none, can we get a motion to adjourn, please? We have a motion, Supervisor Merlino, seconded by Supervisor Bramer and Leggett. All those in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.